All right, we're live. We're back with another episode of the Dry Scoop podcast. We got a special guest with us today. Brian, why don't you go ahead and let us know who we're talking with today?
This is Kevin Klotzbaugh. Kevin is family. He is my uncle, but has an interesting story. So while he's in town for the Missouri State Wrestling Championships, lad, shout out to Samuel who made it. Yep, my 9-year-old. But he's in town hanging out. But he's been kind of. I wanted to talk to him and kind of take us through his experience. Kevin is a high-level operator. He's a national director of operations for Clayton Homes. He has many VP positions and operation positions, both at Clayton's home and prior to that. Is kind of we'll let him tell a story about how he ended up relocating to Knoxville, Tennessee. As a former athlete, not just a high school athlete, but staying active, maybe not competitively, but active throughout your life, and then taking us through your journey as getting into the corporate world, how difficult it is to maintain a active wellness routine and stuff as you're getting pulled in the direction of growing companies and being an operator. And then last year when you were up, we were kind of talking about getting back into shape and being able to kind of turn things around. And you're 63, you said?
Be 63 this year.
Be 63 this year. Getting really good shape and maintaining and while still operating at a high level at work. So that's kind of why we brought him on. Wanted to talk to him more and about his experiences. And I think a lot of guys can relate with is, how do I have this balance? You know, I want to. Everyone wants to chase the dollar. They want to create a life for their family and their loved ones around them. But part of doing that, you want to also enjoy life and be in shape and be able to, be active and have a high quality of life too. So,
Yep. Awesome. Well, let's just go back towards the beginning. So what was your upbringing like? Were you playing sports growing up?
Yes, at a very early age, I played 4 sports year-round. I went from football to basketball to track to baseball in the summers, and did that all the way through high school. I played a little bit of college football my freshman year, but an injury sidelined me permanently. But some very early influences. I guess you could refer to me as a gym rat. I was working out as early as probably 10, 11 years old, had some early influences, and basically have never stopped.
Yeah.
Going on 63, I can honestly say I've worked out and been in a gym most of my adult life and even my younger years. So early influences got me in the gym and I stuck to it. But in most cases, men my age, and as you go through your professional life, you find challenges, how to stick with it. And you go through what I refer to as the professional roller coaster when it comes to your health. Sure. And I've gotten caught up in that too over the years.
Yeah, you mentioned some early influencers that got you into the fitness realm. Who are those people?
He's in the room right now. It's okay. Brian's dad.
Okay. All right. We've heard it, yeah.
I can remember working out in his basement when I was probably middle school, 11, 12 years old, and he took me through workouts and things I needed to work on. I can remember spotting him when I didn't have any ability to spot him. If there was an accident, we were in trouble.
Yeah.
But he started that and eventually opened up Salina Weight Training Center in Kansas with a partner. And I can remember working out amongst these bodybuilders and men twice my age, 3 times my age, and being around that gym for many, many years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Salina Weight Training Center was like I always said if Arnold came to town, that was the place he would go to. It wasn't a YMCA. It was a hardcore, competitive powerlifting and bodybuilding.
That's correct.
Is who went to that gym. Rusty bars and just not the fanciest equipment, just a blue collar workhouse.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was it. And those were influencers. All those guys, I can remember many of their names, even this many years later. The guys that influenced me. So, yeah.
So after lifting, you also got really into running. I remember there was a time where kind of all you and Dad, all the uncles really got into running. I remember what shoes you were wearing was a big, what Asics you were wearing, whatever was a big deal. But you were, kind of an avid runner for a while too. Yeah,
I got into that in my mid-20s, right when Peggy, my wife, and I started to have children. I was a sprinter. In high school.
That's right.
In track.
You and Mike both, yeah.
Yeah, I ran the 100 meter, 200 meter. I ran the anchor on the 4x1, the anchor on the 4x2, and I ran the 100 in the medley relay every meet. So I was a sprinter. Running a quarter was like a long distance race to me. I didn't do them. I
Yeah.
hated the quarter mile. But I did. I met a friend. My wife had worked with his wife at a bank, and he was a marathon runner. And he just challenged me one time to go to the Y with the girls, and then we'd go out and run for a while. And I didn't do real well keeping up with him, but over time I was able to go out. I would run half marathons and not even realize I ran a half marathon. So I got probably physically in the best shape in my life when I was running like that.
Cardiovascular shape.
But I looked anorexic. I mean, I lost so much weight because I was doing it almost daily. An average run for me was 6 miles, literally 6 miles.
Yeah.
And then on the weekends, I would get out and run, be gone for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. And then my wife and I would take a bike or my motorcycle and go out and see how far I went. And 18 miles. I mean, just like that. So, yeah, I got into it. And you didn't think as a sprinter all those years that became a distance runner.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen much.
I think some do, like track athletes though. You don't go out and get a pickup 100-meter dash, So like if you're a runner and like, what do you do? Yeah, I know, some people I was friends with in college that were sprinters and stuff. Like you kind of like, well, I'll run. I can run, So you have to kind of even wrestling. Like I can't go. And you don't go to the YMCA and like, hey, you want to get a pickup match, So you can running's just something easy. You can always throw on a pair of tennis shoes and go hit the pavement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can remember he would take off and I would stay quite a distance behind him because I couldn't keep up with him. And over time, I was right on his tail. I mean, I was right there with him. The difference was when we would race the last quarter mile, half mile,
Then you kick it in.
I had the sprinter speed and he could not keep up with me. So it was a lot of fun.
Did you do any, even like recreationally, any races, runs?
5Ks. And
Yeah. Stuff like that's fun. Yeah. Take us into corporate life. What grew up in Salina, Kansas, playing sports there. You mentioned, where'd you go to college?
Bethany.
Bethany's where you played football there for a bit. Okay. So take us into corporate life. Because I think that's where we want to get. I think so many people can relate as far as, again, chasing that corporate life and wanting to climb the ladder and that. A lot of guys find that pull. Like, where do you find the balance? You have a growing family, and so you can get pulled away. You don't have the time, or maybe even the energy to throw on the shoes and go hit the pavement. You're just doing as much as you can to keep your head above water at work, and other things get sacrificed. So tell us a little bit about the professional life.
Yeah. I knew at an early age that management's what I wanted to get into. I could lead, and I knew that. And it started with high school football and being elected by the other players to be the captain. And so I knew leadership and management was my career. So I took business in college. I also took computers because that was the big thing back in the late 70s, early 80s. Everybody was getting into computer programming. But my path took a little different approach. I was very young, very influential. And there was a local company in my hometown that was getting ready to develop their very first manager development program. And they approached me in my college years about moving to Lake Station, Indiana, right outside of Chicago, and being one of two of their first managers in training. And that was with Blue Beacon. Okay. And so I did the math and thinking, okay, I'm going to graduate. I had the potential to make X, or I can go be a manager in training making X. And the option was go for it.
See ya.
I wanted to get married and start my future. So I got into management at a very, very young age.
Yeah. For those that don't know, and nobody knows, what is Blue Beacon?
They are.
Well, here's the thing: if you grew up in Salina, Kansas, you know what Blue Beacon is because that's the headquarters. Everybody knows the family stuff, but it's a big business. When he tells you what it is, you won't think it is, but I'll let you describe it.
Yeah, it's a huge business, and they were fairly small when I started with them. They're nationwide now and in Canada, so they're an international company. Mm-hmm. But they are a chain of truck washes all across the United States.
Yeah, this is 18-wheeler. Like you don't think of like, why is this? Well, because 18, they're on the road all the time, and you can't go to a car wash.
Right. Yes, right. And they're a step above.
Huge business.
I mean, they're very professional, uniformed employees, the whole works. I mean, it's very well done. Yeah. So and I spent 20 years with them with different roles, and each role I remember I was actually the manager of the year for a couple of years in a row managing for them, and they invited me to take a role as a field rep, very similar to a regional VP or something like that, but they didn't regionalize. So when you have nationwide coverage and you don't regionalize, you can imagine what my schedule looked like every week.
So you're
I was in
kinda
a different time
managing the
zone.
managers.
Yeah, I was in a different time zone every week. And so though anytime you're in the corporate world and that's what you do and that type of travel, that's when those challenges start to stay in shape and to eat right. And so that happened for me all the way through my 20 years with them. So I was approaching 40 when I was approached about taking on this role that I've now been in for almost 25 years with Clayton.
And really, in your 20s and 30s, the maybe the lack of exercise, the lack of workout diet doesn't affect you as much. You know, your body's pretty
correct.
forgiving in those times.
And I still tried to stay active. I can remember playing industrial softball, very industrial, meaning very competitive, and church league softball and basketball. I played basketball till I was 40 something. And so I tried to stay active,
Sure.
but the gym never changed. It didn't matter how much weight I gained or off track I got. I always worked out. And I think that's been saving grace for me all these years to handle the corporate environment, the stress that comes along with it.
Was it your mindset growing up because you just, like you talked about your brother being an influence for you, that you just never questioned the idea of not working out? Because I feel like back in that day, that was not heard of. I look at my parents or I look at other people's parents, or the general person, the parent of that time frame or somebody growing up in that day, where I didn't feel like health and fitness was such a priority, or in the zeitgeist it is, or maybe we're just biased because we work in the industry, but I feel like it's more of a cultural thing now to put a focus on that. Was it like that back then?
Yeah, probably not as much as it is
You were like
today.
an outlier.
I was.
Yeah, I don't think
I
the
was,
gym was for
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Running became a culture
Yeah.
back then. Right?
Okay.
Or the neon, what are they, like the running suits, right? Or the they like, whoosh, 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 whoosh,
Yeah, I can remember. This is
windbreakers.
Windsuits.
Yeah, windsuit. Yeah.
as silly as it is. I can remember being in middle school, and all I wanted to do was go get this mesh shirt that didn't have sleeves, so I could show off my biceps. In middle school, I mean, I can remember things like
That's
that.
when you question your sexuality.
No. It probably did look a little weird, those mesh shirts, but
You don't want to show pictures of that today.
no. But I wanted to be that guy that, the girls in school and, that kid's pretty well built,
Yeah.
and that environment for me was, as I got a little older into high school and college and into my early 20s, I didn't feel good if I wasn't doing it. I didn't feel the same. I got to the point where if I missed a workout, I didn't feel as good. And that just became a part of me. But I don't think it was popular at all. I know at the Salina Weight Training Center, I remember one guy, I think his name was Ron Householder, big kid in high school that worked out there. But that was it. I don't really remember anybody else unless I brought a friend, to the gym with me. So I think it was just ingrained in me at a very early age that this was an important part. And then through my professional career, you guys may have heard of this. I was fortunate these last 25 years to work with a CEO that believes in a balanced life principle. Balanced life principles mean something for everybody differently. And it's basically taking 4 quadrants of the 4 most important parts of your life. And how do you balance them? How do you spend equal amount of not just time, because time is a little tough because of your career, because of sleep, which is part of your health and wellness. But what are the 4 quadrants that you're going to put into play? And then how do you prioritize time in each one of those? And it's different for everybody. But for me, it's family, my faith, my career, and my health and wellness. And those 4 quadrants keep me in those things that are important to me in my life. And wellness is part of working out. And again, I say the corporate roller coaster, it's easy when you travel extensively to gain weight and your weight to fluctuate.
Eating
But
out.
who knows where my health, now 63, where I would be if I hadn't stuck to that gym and that regiment because of the challenges you have eating out, going to restaurants, business meetings where the food's brought to you and you don't eat right. It's not what you should be eating. So, yeah.
Take us from Blue Beacon. Where do you go to from field rep on up Blue Beacon to where you're at? Was there anything in between, or was it from Blue Beacon to?
It was
Clayton?
from Blue. I've only had 2 jobs since I was 19.
That's wild.
And that's
I
rare.
say that as I've had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
That's rare these days. But I've been very fortunate to have some great leaders that I worked with. I mean, Charlie Walker, the founder of Blue Beacon, was one of my best mentors in my life. How to handle people, how to make the right decisions businessly, and but anyway, I was talking about that extensive travel all across the country, and it got to the point where we were ready to start our family, and I knew I didn't want to be on the road like that. So I went back to managing, and I got involved in their manager development program, but developing managers for Blue Beacon. And so I always had MITs, managers in training, at my location on a regular basis. And so I met an individual, and gosh, it was back in 2001. And he started finding out more about what I did for a living. He had heard me speak and do some other things. And he said, I'd be interested in you talking to our company about coming on board with Clayton. And that was back in 2001 that I met him. It was 2002 that I got recruited to come to work for them. I was the company's very first and last regional manager in training. They felt like they were going to bring in other executives or other people in management and teach them the road to run a region. Mm-hmm. Physically impossible.
Really?
Physically impossible. I had no training materials. I'm going to wing it. I'm going to learn all I can. All I knew to do was I was in retail, so I knew to go to a retail store and learn the environment and learn the processes as best I could. 6 months later, they're asking me if I'm ready to take a region. They were getting ready to make a change.
So let's back up for listeners. What is Clayton Homes?
Clayton Homes is one of the largest home builders in America today. They started out way back in 1960 something with manufactured housing and modular housing. And today they own several site builders. So you think of housing, they're one of the largest in the nation.
And I don't want to get off on a completely digress into Clayton Homes, but I like when people are. I could go through and with a fine tooth comb and describe kind of the operations here at Titan, what we do, what separates us, what makes us different. Last time you were here, we had a conversation about mobile homes, which is not something you think is wildly entertaining, but I like the process. I want to know how it works, and so I was asking Kevin. If I put you inside, you didn't know, would you know you're in a mobile home? So I want to talk about Clayton, but he said, correct me here, but he said he would. But the average person today, what you see inside them, would have no idea. I mean, these are very advanced and kind of what Clayton does. Talk just a little bit about the industry, what Clayton does differently, maybe that separates it from other manufacturers, because this isn't the trailer homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not the trailer homes of old.
Right.
And most people's conception, that's one of the challenges we face in the industry, is stigma and what people's thoughts are on manufactured housing. Used to call them trailers. We don't refer to them as trailers anymore because they have advanced and there's so much more quality in the build than ever before. But you can imagine a frame coming into a huge warehouse, a huge facility, and everything is built panelized. And panelized means it's already constructed. The panels go up for the walls, and then the roof trusses go over them. And it just keeps working down an assembly line until the product is finished. So just stage after stage after stage. And the product with drywall and all the different things they've done in the past and now where they are today, you could go in, if somebody just blindfolded you and sat you
right.
in a interior of a manufactured home, you would not know that you were in one.
Right.
No way. I would, because I understand the process and I know what to
You
look
understand
for.
what to look for.
Yeah, but you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And with all the brands, like Clayton is the largest, so they have brands you're very familiar with. You can go to Home Depot and buy their faucets. You can go to Lowe's, and it's name brand stuff. So it's not like it's old parts coming from Japan or China.
Yeah.
It's well known stuff.
High quality.
Yeah, high quality.
And when you say the different the manufacturing stuff, you were escapes me here. I wanted to go back. Retail. You were talking retail locations. Mm-hmm. This is where people go in and customize. Where they order.
They can customize.
What's a retail? Because that kind of grabbed a retail store for the homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clayton is vertically integrated, And vertical integration means for us, it means that we build them, we sell them, we finance them, and we insure them.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's what that's
Wow.
Clayton Homes
Yeah.
is vertically. It's big.
That's why it's so big. Yeah.
Yes, and so that separates us from a lot of the competition is that vertical integration. But yeah, I went sidetrack on your actual question, but sorry about that.
But you said you got familiar with the retail process. That's like the
Yes.
sales. That's the
Sales.
realtor. Yeah, I'm selling you a new home.
Yes.
What's the finishings? Am I correct in that? What's
Yes.
the finishing like?
Yeah, most home centers have anywhere from 15 to 25 lot models that you can choose from.
Okay.
But in that, you can look at different floor plans. You can look at different options. They can customize it. They can, what we call a retail sold order, so they can order it. It normally takes about 30 days to get it.
Wow.
And the home is built completely and delivered to that retail location who takes over for the construction side of it.
Okay.
And they do they have contractors, but they work on the construction, getting the home delivered to the location, to the site. Most of the time, the customers land, and then they do all the grading and set it up till it's completed.
Okay. I said I didn't want to get sidetracked on mobile homes. Just how big a mobile home? What's the square footage? Like I want the works.
A big one would be like a 3280, so you're talking 2,600 square feet in a mobile home.
It's a big house.
2,800 square feet.
Yeah. Okay.
And with this panelization, it's opened up. You can imagine now we have site builders that are now doing panelization for site built homes on concrete pads, on foundations, on basements. Modular housing is a totally different type of home where the house is actually lifted off the frame and set up on a foundation. So there's all these things we've learned in the manufactured housing industry has now provided that growth opportunity with housing in general. And now panelization is taking floors up now.
Okay.
They can build 2 stories, 3 stories.
So you're just delivering houses.
That's right.
Yeah, that's why the trailer home wouldn't make sense.
Yeah,
a
it doesn't make
rectangular. Yeah, very different.
A lot of options.
Okay.
So that retail side is what I knew. I needed to just learn that. And was I ready to run my first region? No.
Yeah.
But I worked my butt off and took it. Told them I was ready. But it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
It was pretty successful. They gave me 7 regions my first 11 years with the company.
Okay.
And I had taken some challenging opportunities and worked with a great team and got things turned around. And that led to the vice president role, what we called regional vice presidents. And then I was asked to come to corporate the last 5 years as a vice president of retail training and operations.
And that was a title before national director.
Yeah, and all those, including when I was with Blue Beacon, had significant travel. Yeah,
And still, it sounds like you're still somewhat.
still traveling.
Yeah.
It's really all I know.
Okay. Okay. Let's get into coming up last year, visiting us here at Titan HQ. Just sitting down, having meals together, talking nutrition, fitness, and stuff. What's changed?
For me,
Yeah.
well, the workout intensity has changed significantly. The products that I take, the supplements, the products that I take has changed significantly. The focus on overall wellness, not just in the gym, not just cardio, but balancing it together. I literally work out. I have now for over a year, 7 days a week. And occasionally when I feel like I'm a little tired, I'll take a break.
Sure.
But I think the commitment, it doesn't matter what I'm involved in. It doesn't matter where I am. I will find the ability to work out. I don't miss workouts. And I think the other side of that too is just have I gone off track occasionally? Yes. But just that wellness part where the eating and the things that you're doing for your body just make more sense long term. I'm closer and closer to retirement. I don't know when, but as long as I'm healthy and feel good, I can work for a while longer, and I want to. But that is probably the next milestone for me is to retire. And I don't want to retire unhealthy.
Yeah.
I want to be able to enjoy retirement, whatever age that is. I want to be physically able to enjoy that. I've got grandchildren. You know, I'm watching you coach up your son. I can't wait till I get the day I can coach up my grandkids that are coming up into sports and things like that. So
that's the goal, right?
That's right. I want to be involved and I want to be able to move around. I want to be able to run with them and help them do all that. So, But it's changed. I mean, it's changed me. My level of commitment is, I don't even remember the last time I was dedicated as I am after my last visit to Titan Nutrition.
Cool. What without making it commercial, just talk about some of the products you're taking now. What do you both, I guess, with both diet things you're tracking, proteins, et cetera, and products that you're integrated that maybe weren't available back. You mentioned early on as a young athlete and stuff that you're using now, maybe not for performance purposes, but just for health longevity purposes.
Yeah. Well, with Titan, I do have my favorite proteins, whey proteins. I love the chocolate cake. One of my favorites. I do take creatine. I do take collagen. I will occasionally, I don't use it every workout, but I'll occasionally take pump when I want to really crash the weights
Just
heavy
for some funsies.
and get into it. Yeah. I love Titan's multivitamin. I just think since I've started taking it, I just feel better.
I think especially when you're traveling, that becomes really, micronutrients become really important. So you can just check that box. It's hard to eat, even if you're trying to eat healthy macronutrients, proteins, carbohydrates, fat, balance there. It's hard to get a variety of colors and everything. So just like check that box of micronutrients with the vitamin.
Yeah. And then I think fish oil, omega-3,
Yeah.
is probably the bulk of what I take. I just
basics.
mentioned to you this morning, I want to spend some time reevaluating what supplements I'm taking and is it the right direction I still need to be in.
Yeah,
as
we
I
got
get
to sit up in
older.
the office and talk shop a little bit this morning about some stuff coming out and things that we can put in there for get a little extra boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
So I think that's pretty much it, other than just trying to be a little bit more diet and what you take in food wise, just to be make a little more sense about it than just eating what I want.
What would you tell guys? I'd say from my age upward, even younger now. I'm not quite as young as maybe Tyler here. About 10 years on you.
Yeah.
But guys, I think like Tyler and I, we're in our I think what people consider the bulk of their like earning years. Like we like now's the time to hustle, but we have young families coming up. I'm sure looking at us with young families, like what advice would you give? Both in terms of like, hey, here's how to grind and go out and earn, but also keeping it healthy with the balance. So you kind of mentioned the 4 quadrants of health and stuff. What would you say to the guys that like, man, I really want to excel professionally, but also stay healthy and keep that front of mind as well?
Well, the number one thing that sidelines people that do what I do is stress. And you have to find the ability to manage that. And I think that's where my advice to anybody that's young and starting their families would be to find a way, figure out what your balanced life is, what your principles are, what means something to you, and how do you spend time in each one of those. It can't be always equal time because that's sometimes very hard. When you work 10 hours a day and then you sleep 8 hours or 6 hours or whatever it is, your day's already, what is that? 3/4 of the way done, and then you've got 2 more quadrants to work in. So sometimes it's just being intentional. It may be when you walk in the door and you've got children that you make sure that you drop everything and spend those first 30 minutes, hour with them before you get involved in anything else. It's being intentional, and it's the same thing with your workouts. Is you may only have 30 minutes, but 30 minutes is better than none, and it can be very intense. It can be very focused, very cardio or whatever it may be. I'm convinced now with the workouts that you and I worked on that I can do that cardio wise. I can bust my hump and put in the weights and it becomes cardio because I'm repping and moving fast and going from one to the other. And my heart rate's up 140, 145 and I'm pushing it.
Yeah.
And so I think that intentional piece is absolutely critical. And I mentioned to you, I think for people like me that have been in the professional world the greater part of my life, the 3 C's. And those 3 C's are commitment. It takes commitment. It's confidence, not just in yourself, but in the products and not having to research everything. That's what I love about Titan Nutrition is it's clean. It's good stuff. I don't have to worry about research and things like that. And credibility. And that goes along too with products and, areas like that. So for people that are just getting started raising families, Those are the things that are the most important to me that I would encourage people to think about, find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
It's good advice. I got twins that are 2 years old, so I'm right in the thick of it. So
Yeah.
that's good advice.
I like that part about you get home, like drop your phone, drop everything in the first 30 minutes. I'm guilty of it. I'm constantly, we're constantly working, kind of thinking. I don't know how many, I do try to get the workouts in, maybe less consistently now. I don't know how many times I pop into your office like, hey, I'm going to work out. And I got 25, 30 minutes where I'm trying to hit, whatever I can and head off to coach and then, home, dinner time, prep, get kids to bed, ready for the next day. So it does become, you need to be very intentional with your time and where you put your energy, because you can get sidetracked so easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this doesn't sound professional, but it really is. Remember this: happy wife, happy life.
Amen.
Write that down.
I was lucky enough to learn that before I married Brooke, and it's paid off pretty well so far.
Absolutely a fact. And trust me, as your children get older, when you're not intentional, they will call you out. Mm-hmm. They see everything. They know everything as they get older, and they will call you out. Yeah. Because if I'm thinking work or I'm working on something and I'm home, they will say, Dad, I'm talking to you. That's that intentionality.
You feel it here.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that stuff that nothing is more important than them right now. I've been gone all day. Sometimes I've been gone all week.
Yep.
And I'm home. I need to be more intentional about that time with them.
Yeah.
Especially in those years that you influence them so much when they're little. And intentionality is such a big word. Mm-hmm. It is to do things like I do. And the stress levels, I've watched people die before they retired, work up until they passed. And that's not a pretty picture.
Yeah, what's it for at that point?
It's just not worth it. There's nothing worth that. And I've always said I'll retire when my health is still good.
Yeah.
To where I can maximize life after career.
Good stuff. Kevin, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's get a workout in.
That sounds good.
Later.